reading in the book of Job. And before we get started, I want to thank you for joining us. And if you have not officially accepted the invitation, I want you to check the description box below. There's a link to the YouVersion Bible app where you can join us with our yearly Bible reading program that is hosted with Selfless Church. And you can join the community of readers that read every single day and leave incredible feedback on each day's reading. And you can be a part of the journey. It's not too late, and you have plenty of time if you're behind to catch up along the rest of the year. So please join us. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to hear what you have to say about what you're learning. So we're currently reading in the book of Job. If you're wondering why are we in the book of Job, just 8 days in the year, again, this is a chronological reading plan, and it goes in the order of the events as they currently, or as they happened in the biblical times. And so today we're reading in the book of Job. We're dissecting this dialogue between him and his friends. And yesterday we talked about the sense of hopelessness that Job seems to have about the things that he's experiencing, and particularly about the absence of God. We find that continues in Job chapter 17, verse 11, where Job says, "My days are over, my hopes have disappeared, my heart's desires are broken." He says in verse 13, "What if I go to the grave and make my bed in darkness? What if I call the grave my father and the maggot my mother or my sister? Where then is my hope? Can anyone find it? No, my hope will go down with me to the grave. We will rest together in the dust." So you can see that there's a big conversation around hope, around what should I expect now that God has allowed this to happen to me. It's almost a way of Job saying, if God could let something like this happen to me, what else should I expect from God? Because all credibility, if you will, or my sense of who God is has been lost. And so why should I have any hope in a situation like this? But this is a very interesting book because it is filled with a variety of genres. You have the poetic nature of the book of Job. You have the wisdom nature of the book of Job. You have the sort of lamenting that you find in the book of Psalms and even in the book of Lamentations. You find all of that really in the book of Job. And it's interesting because to see the variety of emotions and the variety of expression helps us relate very deeply and connect very deeply with Job, because some of us, if not all of us, have a share of experiences that lead us to experience life in a very emotional state, whether it is positive, whether it's optimism, whether it is sadness, grief, and otherwise. But the reason that is important is because we see this kind of talk in Job chapter 16, Job chapter 14. We see it in Job chapter 17. And then right when we think all is lost, we find in chapter 19 that Job has a glimmer of optimism just in passing. It's very interesting because it's like, he's going through this, and then for just a brief moment, he checks into reality just for a moment as he's going back to a position where he's going to continue on in this doom and devastation. But I think it's worth mentioning that even in the midst of all of this, Job seems to think that there's still a reason to believe that God will come through. I mean, look at what he says in Job chapter 19, verse 25 through verse 27. "But as for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and he will stand upon the earth at last. And after my body has decayed, yet in my body I will see God." In other words, even though I'm experiencing all of these terrible experiences, I still have the expectation that in this body that is suffering, I will see God. I will see him for myself. Yes, I will see him with my own eyes. I am overwhelmed at the thought. Now, the thing that's interesting about this text is that it is a true depiction of the idea of resurrection. Because a true idea of resurrection says not that we place our bodies in the ground to get new ones, but that we place our bodies in the ground that is suffering decay with the anticipation that that same body which is sown will be risen again, or it will rise again. And so what Job gives us is a glimmer, a shadow of resurrection hope, resurrection faith, if you will. That what I put down, what is decaying, what is dying, will eventually receive life and live again. And that concept of resurrection should be present in every idea of resurrection that we have through Scripture, whether we're talking about a corporate resurrection of of the nation of Israel, whether we're talking about the bodily resurrection of the believer, or whether we're talking about the symbolic resurrection of the circumstances that we anticipate will receive life again in our lives. And so this is very powerful, and it goes to show how real and how honest the Bible is, because notice what we've been reading: doom, gloom, doom, gloom, doom, gloom, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, there has to be something better than this. All right, back onto it, doom, gloom, doom, gloom. So you see this realistic, this real portrayal of what it means to be a human in a dark and fallen world, and yet in the midst of all of this, Job has a reason to believe that something positive can still happen. And for me, the takeaway from today's reading is, no matter how bad it is, no matter how high or low my emotional state can get, my prayer is that I come to the reality, even if just but for a moment, that God is still able. My prayer is that I don't allow the circumstance to be so terrible that it takes away just the moment of hope, even if it takes away a state of hope at times. That hopefully in the midst of that struggle, I can find just one more reason to hope and believe that God can come through. And we get that in Job in the 19th chapter and the 25th through the 27th verse. So a powerful example of a man who is pushing forward, trying his best to get through it, and has a reason to hope yet one more time. So we're going to keep reading. We have so much more to cover. I hope you're enjoying this. Please let me know what you're getting out of the text and out of each day's reading by dropping a comment in the comment box below. Feel free to share with your friends. Get them on board. The best way to read is not just by yourself, but to read with someone else. And so I would encourage you to invite your friends and family members to be a part of the yearly Bible reading program. So until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless, and live by the word.